Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1. And this morning, joining us on our set is a young parliamentarian with a famous dad. But he's here, and we're delighted to welcome on our set this morning Dr. Ramesh Patarina. Very good morning to you,
Good morning to you.
And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's wonderful to see young people here. And I wanted to ask you straight away, what is your take on what's going on in politics in our country, in Parliament? There's all this corruption going on. There seems to be a lack of accountability and responsibility. What's going on?
Well, actually, people of this country wanted to have a change. So our government, we were ruling the country for 10 long years. And starting from 1994, except for two years, we were governing the country for nearly 2 decades. So people wanted to have a change.
SLFP.
Yes, LFP, yes. Yeah, People's Alliance and the UPFA.
Yeah.
So the people wanted to have a change. There have been certain issues in relation to our governance also, though we had done so much in the infrastructure development, bringing in peace to this country. People had certain criticisms. That one criticism was about this corruption.
Yeah.
So at the January 8th election last year, so people defeated us. So new government came into power.
Yeah.
So the people of this country expected a lot of things from this government.
Yeah.
So it is up to the people to decide. After now, it's nearly 2 years since we had gone out of power, and new government came to power in January 2015.
Yeah.
So it's up to the people to decide whether they had gone in the correct direction. People always, the educated Sri Lankans, the greater majority of Sri Lankan people expect this country to be a better one than this.
Yeah, I think
so
we
the
all do.
all of us.
Yeah.
All of us. So it is unfortunate up to a certain extent that the promises given by the political parties and the governments did not keep the promises in relation to tackling corruption, the corruption issue.
Right.
But it is getting better and better. That's why we voted, all of us gave our unanimous consent for the 19th constitutional change, which had brought in certain independent commissions, and the government promised to keep things more transparent.
Yeah.
But despite the promises, despite the efforts, it has not fallen into the correct track, I would say.
Yes, Dr. Patarina, may I put it to you this way? Aren't these the difficulties of having a coalition government? For all intents and purposes, they can label it what they like, and it's called a national unity government.
Yes.
Well, that's perhaps to circumvent some of the regulations of the 19th Amendment.
Yes.
That's another angle of looking at it.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that this is a government that is made up in a coalition.
Yes.
Right? So that's a problem in itself.
Yes.
On top of that, don't you think that it's rather unfair that the leader of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party,
Yes.
Who also happens to be the president of this country,
Yes.
with his own clear mandate,
Yes.
right? Isn't it rather not on and not cricket for you, when I say you, I
Yes.
mean this so-called joint opposition, to not stand behind the leader of your party? Shouldn't it be a case that either you stand behind him or you leave, go and join Ranil or anybody else?
Okay, so coming to your first question,
Yeah.
so it's the coalition government that had been in power since 1994 for a long history. Even our government was a coalition, so we had the Muslim parties, the Tamil parties, and other small parties coming together to form the government. So it's not a new thing, though this time for the first time that UNP and the SLFP, they have come together to form the government. That's right. It's a novelty. It's a novelty.
It's a novelty where the two major parties are together.
Yeah, but once you form that sort of government, you expect the that government to deliver much better than the previous governments.
Well, but
okay.
yes and no, because
the second,
you can...
Let me ask the second question. Yes, here His Excellency the President Maithripala Sirisena is the leader of our party, and with his consent only that we started working in the opposition, because significant number of population of this country, nearing up to 4.7 million, they voted for us. They did not accept the concept of this unitary government, two major political parties getting together to form the government. So at that time, when we were campaigning for our elections in August 2015, we said we do not become the part of the government, but we support for the good cause. That's why we voted for the 19th Amendment. That's why we are talking about the 20th Amendment. If it's a good one for the country, we definitely support. If for the good things, we support. But on the other hand, we'll have to represent the people who voted for us. That's why we are in the opposition.
Right. But nevertheless, President Sirisena, as the leader of the party,
Yes.
isn't getting the full support from his membership. And that sounds to me is rather unfair.
No, that's because of the political climate change in this country significantly in 2015. Because, we had our own candidate. That was His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa. He contested from our party. He, Honorable His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena, he joined the UNP. Basically, it's the UNP voter base that voted for him, who brought him to power. So there's a conflict of interest at that time itself. So it's fair, by all means, democratically, that the people who voted for us, we have to represent them. There's a representation because the large majority of the people at the ground level, they do not basically like this concept of two parties coming together to govern the country. But you can see certain good things happening. I agree with that. But on the other hand, we'll have to look at the interests of the people who had voted for us.
How can I ask you to
Yes.
be rather candid as a young politician?
Yes.
And they always say this is a cliche almost that the future is in the hands of the young, right? So now, in that context,
Yes.
Can you say that is it fair, or why is it that the former president,
Yes.
who's clearly voted out of office,
Yes.
because the public didn't want that,
Yes.
right? So he's done his good bits,
Yes.
and isn't it time for him to sort of go off into retirement and be some sort of elder statesman and pass judgment on all sorts of things, but not get involved and be a real thorn in the side of this president?
No, he's not a thorn actually. The people
he's
of this
like
country.
that. Yeah.
No, that is what you interpret actually.
Yeah.
That's
That's right.
you have
That's
you
right.
have a
That's
right to decide.
That's one opinion.
It may not be the popular view on the other hand, and the view of the people who voted for us. He wanted because of the fact that
You see,
these
the
parties.
people,
Do you want?
Dr. Patrick,
Yes.
the people clearly
Yes.
voted.
Yeah,
It
true.
was a contest between one
Yes.
and the other.
Yes.
And President Sirisena won hands down.
Yes.
Therefore,
Yes.
we must construe that it was a
doesn't-
vote
it doesn't-
against Emma.
No, it doesn't mean that he has to be away from politics because there are no, as I very clearly stated to you, there are no representation of the people who had voted for Mahinda Rajapaksa or then subsequently at the general election for us. So he has to take the leadership. But if somebody can say, okay, isn't that good for him to be away from politics for some time, as you just mentioned? But it's up to the time. He will stay away when the country and the policies of the country, the economy comes back to the normal track. I don't think he will stay there for a long time, but for the time being, we need him to provide the
But
leadership.
to be fair, I mean, he had 2 terms. He couldn't get
Yeah, that's right.
If that was enough
Yes.
to get everything going.
Yes.
And do you have a problem with that?
No, obviously.
Why should somebody in most of the democratized world,
Yes.
we have systems in place
Yes.
to make sure that no one person has a all-encompassing effect forever and ever
Yes.
on the country, because that's almost like a dictatorship.
No, obviously he can't become the executive president of this country. The
Not
constitution
now.
is changed.
Just thanks to this
it's
national
only
government.
it's for the time being. He's providing the leadership for us, but time has to decide. It's
why-
because of the
okay,
fact
then
that
in
it's
that
because of
case-
the fact that this unitary government, the both parties have come together. His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena from the SLF fraction and from the UNP, they got together. Who is giving the leadership or the representation to the other people, the large majority of the people who voted for us? That is the critical question here. So at that time he didn't want, when the party was given away. So probably the Mahinda Rajapaksa did not expect this, these political events to be turned around in this manner. That's why he had to be in politics.
That's, or was it because he needed to protect the various claims being made against members of his family?
Obviously, you know that he can't protect that. You know, there are a lot of allegations, and they are going to the courts, and most of the family members were remanded, including Honorable Nama Rajapaksa and former Minister Basil Rajapaksa. So there is no protection as such. You know, the more they are in politics, more they will be harassed.
But on the other hand, there was deep unhappiness about the level of nepotism, alleged corruption,
Yes.
and family banding.
Yes, those are the reasons why reasons for the downfall of ours. But people believed that at that time. Today, I can ask you, after about nearly 2 years, what are the significant charges brought against him? So he was, you know, that
But these
yesterday also you saw from one
charges are
charge he was. The Attorney General's Department came
Yes, but
forward to withdraw the case.
I don't think that we can. Okay, then we can respond and say to you, what about the lands that suddenly have no ownership?
Sure, you have to.
you know.
Okay, those are the court cases.
Yeah.
But you know, so in that case, it's up to the government. They came to power exactly on those promises. They given a lot of promises to the people of this country.
Yeah.
Especially they charged, you know, the level allegations against the previous regime or the government. Now, why can't they do the justice? I mean, they were not found guilty. They were not found guilty.
These charges are so serious, and the investigations are continuing, and that's what they say.
Yeah, that's
so,
what they say.
you know,
We'll see. So it's up to the
wait
time
and
to see.
Indeed.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Yes.
So, in the meantime, as a young parliamentarian, how worried are you about what's going on in this government? Because, you know, corruption is not the preserve of any one party or politician.
That's right.
Right, so we have to agree to that.
Yeah, that's
and
right, yes.
time and time again, when we raise questions about what's happening in this government, the stock answer is, well, this happened in the other government.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's not an excuse,
Very true.
and that can't be
Very true.
an answer. So
Yeah.
what is the standard? When I say you, I mean people, young people,
Yeah.
the younger politicians
Yes.
who've just come in.
Yeah.
What is your stance on this thing, and
No,
what are you all doing
no,
about it?
Despite political differences, it's very unfortunate when you think of the country. Corruption had been rampant over a period of time. I think it's especially after 1997, with the open market economy scenario came into the Sri Lankan context. This corruption issue came to the limelight. It's very unfortunate that it goes on, and even this the current government has not taken significant issues to tackle the issue. So when you think about the overall picture, it's very disheartening to tell you the truth.
Dr. Patidana, as a young politician, and are you sort of in awe of Mahinda Rajapaksa? Do you have a sense of blind loyalty, or are you able to, like a medical man that you are,
Yes.
are you able to dissect this and keep that separately, his achievements separately and his other concerns separately?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right,
there were,
Yes.
if he was as popular as everyone makes out to be,
Yes.
then he would still be president.
That's right,
the
yes.
bottom line.
No, we had ups and downs. The major difficulty, the major downfall was because of the ethnic issue, I suppose. I mean, even though I strongly
Of course
believe,
it did.
even though we won the war, we couldn't win the hearts and minds of the Tamil population of this country. That was the main reason for our defeat, actually. So other things also came into the limelight. But
There is a
it was-
profound sense of
Yes.
disappointment
That's right.
amongst the people
Yes.
of the former conflict areas
Yeah,
and
that's
the
right, yes,
minorities.
that's right.
That
That's right.
the one man who
Yes.
was able, if he was committed to
Yes.
Real unity and
Yes.
reconciliation,
It was
if he was committed to that,
Yeah, that's right.
then he would have gone down in history a completely
Yeah, that's right.
different
I know,
way.
I know.
And he let the side down.
Yes.
As in, actually, he didn't only let the side, the minorities
I
down, he
think-
let the whole country down.
No, I think it was because of the fact that his, the politics that was, complicated the issue at that time. So there are so many fractions, influencing him in relation to the line that he took
Yeah.
in relation to the ethnic issue. But as you correctly mentioned, he would have been the man who won the war for us and who had won the peace for us.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, he couldn't do that. That was the main reason for our downfall as well.
But do you think it's because he, after the war,
Yes.
when people were so grateful and as a form of endearment, sort of elevated him and started referring
taken
to
for
him
granted
as
that
he was the king.
Yes.
And do you think that this got to his head? But it seems to have got to his head, because the delivery post-war, I think the people in the country were quite nauseated by the fact that every time, if anything, it was, oh, but we won the war, we won the war, we won the war, and we won the war, and we won the war.
Yes.
But, the people of Sri Lanka are, generally speaking, rather peace-loving.
That's right.
We don't.
I agree with you.
We are known for our smiles and for our hospitality and so on.
Yes.
They don't want to know about having this gory details about how we killed our own.
That's right. No, I agree. Partly, I agree with you about what you mentioned just now. But on the other hand, let me mention one fact about this. You said we are a peace-loving nation. That is very true.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, look at the issue that took place in Alutgama Beruwala. His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa had been a friend of Muslims over a period of time. He'd been the president of this Palestinian Sri Lanka Friendship Association some 40 years ago.
Yes, but he
was a friend of Muslims. No, he didn't change. That's the politics around him, which had complicated the matter, I personally believe.
Yeah.
At that time, when that the unfortunate incident took place in Alutgama or Beruwala, I mean, our government didn't do enough to ensure that we, provide relief and we win the hearts and minds of the Muslim community of that area. So that had a, sort of a snowballing effect. Snowballing effect.
As a member of that community, I can tell you that his inaction, sometimes, inaction is greater than action.
He was not in the country at that time, but we know the Honorable Basil Rajapaksa at that time, he mediated with his fullest strength. May not be up to the level that you expected at that time.
Not to the level that we expect, but the level that the normal, average, liberal-minded person accepts.
Well, okay, I agree with that. We did not manage that situation.
That was completely disaster.
On the other hand, what was behind that scene was, the ground factor was, Mahinda Rajapaksa was a friend of Muslims. He won hearts and minds of so many Muslims.
And therefore the letdown was even greater.
Well, that was the reason why we were defeated. From one side, we couldn't win the hearts and minds of the Tamil people after the war, and on the other hand, this effect, that what happened. But now today, you're looking back at that scenario, what happened at that time, you come to a decent conclusion whether it was a conspiracy of a third party. That conclusion you can generally come into, because nothing was done after that, and that the movement which had instigated those incidents, they are freely moving behind now. Even now they have become active again. So it comes to our mind, we have a fair reason to think that was it a conspiracy? So which we did not manage well. Okay, it was our fault basically. We did not manage that scenario as you correctly mentioned. But was there a third party behind that? Is a vital question to answer.
Can I ask you another question? Was it the president's younger brother behind all this? And
no, yes, very clearly.
Was the president so concerned about the way his younger brother is known to react and so on, and he allowed his younger brother to flirt with these almost extremist elements?
No, it's not true actually. What happened during last couple of months, we visited with him to talk to, we have a sizable Muslim community in Gold district and also in Alutgama Beruwala area. Visited those areas, we had an open chat with them and explaining the situation that took, what happened at that time. Maybe people may have believed, may have not believed, but we explained the situation that took place at the ground level. To your question, well, I don't think it happened so, but there was a common belief that it was like that.
Indeed. I want to moving on a little bit. What's your stance on these local government elections? They seem to be delayed.
Yeah, that's right.
And constantly when we pose the question, it is a standard stock response that the standard answer is, the delimitation process is not complete. Do I want to know from you, do you think the public at large out there, do they really know what this delimitation process is?
No, they
do they care?
No, they do not know, they do not care. But the biggest issue is at the ground level. So because of this inactivity of the local government bodies, the people do face troubles. They won't, and on the other hand, as politicians, we want people to exercise their democratic rights. They need to have the voting power to ensure that they elect members of the local government. So Delimitation, people do not know. We hope that even yesterday we had a meeting with the chairman of the election commission. He's of the view that they should be able to finish, the delimitation commission would be able to finish all, their mandate by 31st of December. So hopefully we'll have the elections in first 3 months of next year. But again, it's delayed for a long time, which is not good for the democracy.
Yes, but isn't it frustrating for you?
Yeah, it is frustrating.
How do you explain this to the people of your electorate?
No, that's right. We go and tell them it's not our business. It was done during our time. It was done. It was completed. But what happened after the government changed? So they said, what we have done was not correct. We have, the demarcated the areas as per the wishes of the people of the UPFA. So they wanted to have a new delimitation commission, and they want to go ahead demarcating the areas again. That's why it was delayed.
I'm going to have to move back a step or question back, because I've got a viewer who's posing this very valid question. Okay, it's a long one, but it says they, as in the MR government, did not lose because of the minority if the Muslims did like him.
Yes.
But due to being a corrupt dictator, MR paid money to the LTT to win marginally. Thereafter, changed the course of politics into thuggery and intimidation, and carried on, including getting unconstitutional monies for his henchmen and family. Most of this is absolutely spot on. Some of them needs to be proved.
Well, you can, those are the expressions of somebody. I mean, there had been an opposition to what was going on in the country, but on the other hand, there had been, significant number of people of this country who loved him, who voted for him.
Yes.
But as we discussed earlier also, our downfall was not because of this one basically, it's because of the fact that, it's the Muslim and the Tamil voters who en bloc voted against him.
Even he came in, it's almost an established fact, bar the actual proof, that he paid money to the LTT.
No, that is of course the allegation that the UNP brought in. Actually, I don't believe that it happened. So, the true factor is LTT. Then leader of the LTT, Prabhakaran, thought if Mahinda Rajapaksa came into power, he would have had a better chance of dividing the country. He thought that His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa would get into war immediately, and he was overestimating his strengths in relation to war. He thought that he can militarily defeat the Sri Lankan army. That's why he didn't allow people to vote. On the other hand, he thought if Ranil Wickremesinghe, say somebody like Sarath Fonseca came into power, it would have a different story. Or Ranil Wickremesinghe came into power, it would have a different story.
We can't get away from this, Dr. Patrana, that there was in this country a huge fear psychosis. The people were not, we wouldn't be having this conversation in that last government. As you probably know, we were stoned, we were bombed, we were called terrorists, we were called all sorts of names, but we're still here. And we must agree on this. This must be a basic thing. There was most certainly a huge blanket of fear encompassing the people of this country, even though we had eliminated terrorism. The people were frightened to talk, including cabinet ministers.
Well, if you say so, I say this. Look at the number of TV channels we have operating in this country. Look at the number of new television channels, the radio stations, and the print media. It was enlarged in that manner during last 10 years only. So you can't say that we didn't have the freedom of speech.
But they tried to fix the whole thing.
What is the reason for us to curtail? I mean, we did not. Well, find out the culprit. You continue investigations for last 2 years, but you couldn't find, what had happened. Now it is,
it's a bit like
there are so many,
the
fingers are pointed at different directions, Mr. Faraz, as you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why can't this government, carry out the investigation, fast track it, and bring the culprits to book? I mean, why don't they do that? I hope that there are certain hidden agendas behind all that. I mean, it's not, even though people said that it was Rajapaksa's, there could be so many other hands behind those issues.
Well, it's very worrying. But what about you, as a young person, what's your stance on this current issues the key issues. One of those is, of course, the bond. The central bank bond issue. Two lots of COPE people have looked into it,
yes,
and it just seems to be going here, there, and everywhere,
right,
and it's going
yes,
nowhere. What are you doing about it? As
actually, as parliamentarians, what we could do is we contributed for the COPE Commission, and we were, giving our inputs for the members in the COPE committee. And as parliamentarians, we can't do anything more than that. Only thing is that we can, show a protest at the different forums. But it's up to the government to take legal actions. It has to be referred to the Attorney General's department, and they have to take actions from there onwards.
But how much faith can you have in that?
No, that's the thing. As I mentioned, people expect a better governance. The people who voted for the change on 8th of January expected a better lot from this particular government. So it's very unfortunate when you look at the country as a whole. This government, which came into power, stating the very fact that they're going to tackle corruption, and they've got into that in a major way. It's very unfortunate.
But what about your own take on this? Have you spoken in Parliament about the bond and so on?
Yes.
And what did you say?
No, that was at the budget speech. Yeah. So we basically mentioned now who's behind the main issue. Say the former central bank governor. He's still in connection with the Prime Minister Rajapaksa. He's in his office. He's managing the million job project. That it's whole world knows now. So it was found very clearly by the COPE report also, and there had been several other investigations that were going on. So everybody had found him guilty. I mean, though he was not charged at the courts. So see what's happening now. He was transferred from there to another major project of the government. Now he's in charge of 1 million job project of Honorable Rajapaksa. So it's not fair actually. So you expect this government to deliver justice under those circumstances?
Have you brought this up in Parliament?
We have told. Not only me. There are so many people who have spoken about it. Yes, yes.
And you have.
Yes.
And do you think there's going to be? Do you think there's be light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, we hope there's so much of pressure from different quarters, and they also can't just keep a blind eye on that. I hope something would happen.
And I just almost want to finish off with this question. Do you believe in this notion of either put up or shut up? If you're not happy with the leader of your party, why don't you consider leaving and joining another party?
Well, it's too early to decide. It has to be at the time of the election, and we'll have to ensure that we'll have to see the direction the country goes. I mean, it's about 2 years. Okay, we'll have some more time. We don't want to. We've been in power for some time, and we want this government. We wanted to give them a chance. The people of this country wanted to give them a chance to see whether they are. It's our country. Despite political differences, I personally want our people, this country, to have a better outlook. So we wanted to give them a chance. Now they are going through, and it's almost 2 years now. But if it's not going in the correct direction as we see now, so we have to take a different stance, obviously. So we have to decide.
Counter-argument to that, Dr. Patrina, is that some people say that you all want, the so-called joint opposition want to turn the road back towards corruption and family bandism.
It's not. It's a very, very clearly. There had been few mistakes. If you want to come back to power, it's very clear that we have to ensure that we do not fall into the previous track. We have to have a very clear new policy framework to ensure that we serve better for people in this country.
Dr. Patirana, thank you very much for being on Newsline. I don't really agree with everything you say, but that's
well, I also don't agree with what you said.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, and do look forward to seeing you being active in Parliament, as a young parliamentarian. Thank you very much for watching Newsline. I will see you same time, same place tomorrow morning. In the meantime, take care and God bless.
Thank you.